We enjoy an opportunity to offer many great alternatives. We have a tremendous need for food and beverage. But I am prepared to tell you in the next 20 years, I would not be surprised if you saw in Asia the restaurant phenomena starting to take place. Not too concerned about the Middle East and Africa, because as long as the alcohol rules are there, we're going to be just fine in the hotel side of the business, and I think that will continue. But at the same time, the other major change is the move of ownership. And I know some of you are talking about this, but I think it's very significant. And the only plug I'll make for my alma mater is Chris and his team at BU have just hired a professor to deal primarily with asset management and franchising. Why? Because today, many of the branded chains, remember 18 brands, us, are moving toward franchising. In North America, we are 75% franchised. The rest are managed. Internationally, it's almost a complete flip. However, we are seeing franchising moving into Europe, and I'm not here to tell you that it won't take another 25 to 30 years before you start to see it move into Asia. Again, Middle East and Africa will lag. Franchising is a trend, and it is something we need to embrace. Companies like Marriott are changing the direction, but when you think about your product, the most significant aspect of that is the operators that you turn out. The people who want to get into the operations are probably going to work for these new operating companies. Now, Sage is a local one here in the Denver area, and Mr. Eisenberg is with that group. Another one is in North Carolina I'm familiar with is Concord. White lodging for these three for Marriott I'm very familiar with, but because I haven't been working in the domestic arena, I don't know the numerous ones out there. I can only tell you that this market is going to grow. It is one of the changes we're going to see, and we need to prepare our people for these companies that are going to be doing business under the brands that the major branded companies have. And the 7 major brand companies are going to continue to move toward franchising, still maintaining a management component primarily in the large full-service hotels. What does that mean, in my opinion, for you? Number one, maybe number 1 through 6, is that we need leaders. We need people out of these hotels who have a leadership component. And especially if you are a 4-year program, we need these folks to be prepared to lead and, more importantly, make decisions. It is essential, I know, that they are going into junior management positions right out of the program, but they have to get that skill from you. You don't want to rely on us, though we're doing it now in our training programs, to teach them leadership. I got my leadership training, that's not a shot at BU, Chris. I got my leadership training from the United States Army. And we're not sending people to the military for their leadership training program. I'm not sure if Mr. Obama got up and said, we have a new program, 2 years in the Army, it's your leadership training program, that it would necessarily go over any better than a tuition hike in the California school system. So at this point in time, the fact of the matter is that we need you to teach that leadership component and, more importantly, decision-making so they can bring it to the workplace and it can help us be more effective. You need to concentrate on the fact that people are going to work for these companies that I mentioned earlier and often not work in the large chains initially when they come out of your program for operations in North America. This means that they have to have some entrepreneurial skills because these companies do not have huge bureaucratic organizations Now I will list our competitors, but I've got to resist that. But don't have the bureaucratic organizations that a large brand company does. And they need the ability to be fast, equipped, and ready to grow in those companies. And in North America, in the franchising environment, and soon in Europe, that's going to be critical. The other area that I think is important is that we need to have more global students in your programs. By that, I'm arguing for bringing the Chinese, the Indians, the Europeans, the Russians here in your programs to increase their awareness of how we approach this industry. They are brilliant students. We need them back with what you can teach them. Part of that, and I know the folks that I've worked with understand, part of that is to give them part of the American culture, but part of it is to learn what you can give them that they're not going to get in their local education system in their home country. And where you have the opportunity to cooperate and bond with international schools outside the United States, I would encourage you to do it. Hotel education is a growth business because you've got to fulfill the needs of all of these programs and various future customers that we're talking about. Another area is sales and marketing, and the fact is that that area is one that we currently truly need more highly qualified individuals. Lastly, I would make the point that practical, tactical, and strategic has changed over the last 20 years. I was raised as a tactical person. Marriott and our business has been tactical for years because our chairman focused us on delivering a product and ensuring that we solved problems efficiently and quickly, and we needed to become more strategic from time to time. I do believe that if individuals want a career in the global brand companies, they need to get master's degrees, especially in the areas of finance, marketing, brands, and the like, to be better prepared to handle some of the strategic issues available to them. That doesn't mean that everybody has to break out and be a master's candidate. Operations is equally important, and operations can lead to higher education, but clearly if they're going to work for the brands companies, they're going to need to have that. Now, I've had that serious discussion for the last 5 years with a lot of students that have come to me. And a lot of students say, well, then I guess I better go get a master's. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, hold on. How many corporate jets does Marriott have? They said, I don't know. 1. I said, how many of our owners of these small operating companies have corporate jets? I said, virtually all, and they're bigger than our corporate jet. There is money to be made in these operating companies. Don't be confused. These folks are making lots of money. There are careers to be made in the operating companies. Not everybody needs to go work for the big brand company. But there is so much opportunity in our industry. We don't all need to rush to be working in the largest company in the world. So I am a proponent of that. And I would suggest that as you work with your students, that you continue to emphasize the fact that we have a common need to develop exceptional individuals. The quality you put out is the important factor. It's not the cost of the tuition, it's not the cost of the professor, it's the quality, the energy that your faculty engenders in these students and the excitement and the culture that they come out with. Which leads me to the topic I shared both with the FBI Academy, who was armed, and I want to share with you, who are hopefully disarmed. We talk about culture. It's a topic that's coming up more and more every day in business, not just the hotel industry. Your schools have a culture. Your institutions have a culture. We don't often spend time studying it, but we all have it. It is essential, whether you are a police operation in Kirkland, Missouri, or whether you're the Los Angeles Police Department, or whether you're a hotel, or whether you're a company, to have a culture. Something we're extremely proud of in Marriott, and I think you guys will agree with me, is that our culture has been one that we have nurtured for years, and was something that Bill Marriott singularly believes sets us aside from other companies. There is payback for this, and I'll give you an objective view of that in a second. I do have to talk about Marriott to give you an example, and one of our CEOs of one of our fine competitors, one of the big ones, rode with me on a flight one day, and he said, you know, my biggest challenge is to instill a culture in my company like Bill Marriott has in his company. It is essential that you have that same focus on your program. It's essential that you make your graduates conscious of the importance of it, because culture ties to leadership. And culture, in this case, also is a factor in the global world. And yes, I talk about the global world and the need to understand culture, but today I'm talking about the company culture. And it's as essential that you take those values. Now, let me give you some examples. Marriott, 18 brands, we have something we call brand promises. And you've hopefully experienced it. You go into a Ritz-Carlton, and there are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. That's part of their brand promise. And you go into a Marriott, and hopefully you experience the friendliness, the warmth. You feel like you're at home. And while we're still rebuilding our Renaissance brand, you walk into Renaissance and hopefully you are going to feel an edginess, a difference, a youthful, exhilarating feeling, something that is not consistent but is consistently inconsistent. And those are all built in our brand promises. What overrides those 18 different brand visions and promises is our value system, our culture. Marriott people have heard this ad infinitum. Take care of the associate, they'll take care of the customer, and they'll keep coming back. We have been telling our associates that story for almost 50 years. And we all tell the story. That is part of the principle. And a manager in Marriott knows that they have an accountability to take care of their people. And if they fail to do that, that is job number one and something that they get retrained on very quickly. It's part of our culture. We reinforce that. We literally have an employee opinion survey that Steve's been around for 40 years, at least the time I've been with the company. That means that my bonus is dependent on those employee opinion surveys that work for me. And the regional vice presidents work for me, the COOs, their bonus is dependent on those. And there is nothing like a bonus to get you focused. So we know that we need to focus on our associates. It's part of our culture. So when you get down to it, take